So anyway, so I'm waiting around, and sure as hell, a few days later, we're now in the month of June. We've gone from May to June. And I get another call from Lieutenant Lewis, and he says, Will, this is Lieutenant Lewis in Oakland, California. And I said, yes, sir. And he's bright, cheery, fun, sounds nice on the phone. And he says, listen, he said, do you still want to be a cop in Oakland, California? And I said, yes, sir. I said, I do. And he says, I want to offer you that position. He said, how do you feel? I said, oh, sir. I said, that's exciting. I said, that's really great. He said, Will, what day do you turn 21? I said, I turn 21 next Wednesday, sir. And he said, Will, I want you in my office at 8 o'clock next Wednesday morning. I said, yes, sir, I'll be there. When my mom got home, needless to say, I was excited to share the information. And the first thing we did is get a map of California and try to figure out where the fuck Oakland was. I had no idea. So we're looking at the map, and Mom goes, oh, look, it's right across from San Francisco. Mom had been to San Francisco, and she said, that's a beautiful city. She said, it's cultured, there's art, there's museums, beautiful restaurants. She said, that's a great city. She said, and look, Oakland's right across that bridge. Oakland must be beautiful too. Famous last words. So, on that Wednesday morning, June 22nd, 1965, at 8 o'clock in the morning, I showed up at Lieutenant Lewis's office. He was bright, friendly, cheery. He brought me a cup of coffee. We sat, we chit-chatted for a little while. He puts me in a car and he drives me down to a magistrate's office in downtown Oakland. And in front of that magistrate, on my 21st birthday, with my left hand on the Bible, my right hand up in the air, I swear to protect and defend the citizens of the city of Oakland, California, uphold the laws of the state of California and the United States government, and I swear I do. I always tell people that on my 21st birthday, 3 things happened. 1, from that day on, I could go into any bar I wanted to and get shit-faced drunk. 2, I could vote. And number 3, from that day on, I was packing heat. From that day on, for the next 3.5 years, I had a .38 Smith & Wesson snub nose in the left armpit whenever I walked out of my house. As per department regulations, I was always armed. This kid, at 21, was packing heat. We go back downtown, and Lieutenant Lewis takes me down to the city jail, and they take my photograph. That's my photograph on my 21st birthday on the cover of my book. Happy birthday, Will. Then he takes me up to another office, and I'm issued my star. Now I say star. A lot of police departments have a little thin metal badge. In Oakland, they've got a big, heavy, 7-pointed star. I used to polish that star all the time. I love that star. Mine said 388 on it, Oakland Police Department. I love that star, and I used to look at that thing, and I thought that thing could stop bullets. After I got my star and my photo taken, he takes me up and he introduces me to the recruit class, which had actually already started for a week and a half. So I missed up a week and a half, but it had 4.5 weeks to go. I'm standing there during the class. He introduces me to the class. This one smiling face turns around. It's Ron Daniels. Out of the over 200 guys in Phoenix, they hired 2 of us, Ron and myself. The rest of the guys that were in that class, or about 20 of us, they came from Los Angeles, San Diego, Houston, Dallas, Miami, Washington, D.C., New York City, Philadelphia. It was a very elite group of guys who had all gone through that same testing from that group of 3 men who had traveled around the country to get the recruits for that class. I was proud to be a member of that class. So what commenced then for the next 4.5 weeks was mostly an academic setting. It started at 6 o'clock every morning with an inspection on the roof. And then we would be in that classroom, usually until 5 or sometimes after 6 o'clock every single night. We were learning the penal code sections for the various crimes. We were learning how to write the crime reports. They had guys from Vice who came in and told us about drugs and crimes against children and other things like that. And we're taking notes furiously that we had to go had to put into a notebook, which they collected periodically to make sure we were staying up on it. And that went on for 5 days a week, except for Fridays. Now on Fridays, they let us out at noon. But we got a little card that said you were supposed to report that night for an 8-hour shift on the Oakland Police Department doing something. Okay, there were 4 possibilities. Behind door number 1, you might get actually assigned to be on patrol with another cop, a seasoned patrol cop in Oakland, California. So you drive around for 8 hours doing policey copy things. And a lot of crap is going on in Oakland, California on a Friday night, let me tell you. And for a first-time experience, especially for a young kid from Phoenix, Arizona, it was kind of scary. So that was one of the things. Number two, you might get to go to the city jail. The city jail was an interesting experience. First of all, you had to check your gun, and you checked your gun and your handcuffs and your billy club and stuff. And so when you went into that city jail, all you had were your fists. All night long, on a Friday night, people are being brought to that jail. They're coming in there. They're being strip searched. They're bending over. They're spreading the cheeks of your ass. They're looking up their hole to make sure there's nothing in there. They're being put in a cell. If there's something that happens, there's a fight or something like that, the only thing you've got are your fists and your manpower to overpower that son of a bitch and get him into a jail, into a cell. Oakland jail. Another scary experience. Behind door number 3, you might get to go to the radio room. And I went to the radio room one night. I loved that experience. Those guys up there were not uniformed policemen, but they were uniformed. They were professionals. And you could tell right away they were concerned about us. And they loved the idea of being able to put a face to the voice that they would hear. You got to learn how radio worked, you know, the codes, the signals, that very chopped, abbreviated way the cops speak into the microphones and stuff like that. And you also got to see that big board with all the flashing lights on it, and you knew that in Oakland, California, on a Friday night, a lot of crap was going down, and that phone was being manned by 5 or 6 guys sitting at that table, and stuff was going on all the time. They don't call it the radio room, they call it the alarm center. It was alarming. So behind door number 1 was scary, behind door number 2 was scary, and behind door number 3 was alarming. But here's door number 4, are you ready? And my card, on my first Friday night, 3 days after my 21st birthday, said, report to Vice. Just the sound, Vice. Sounds a little bit scary to me. It said to show up in plain clothes. You're going to be doing undercover work, so don't look like a cop. So I showed up that night. I'm wearing a tight pair of 501 jeans, a tight white t-shirt. I've got my little windbreaker on to conceal my 38 snub nose in my armpit. Wearing a pair of white tennis shoes, and I felt like I was very Marlon Brando on the waterfront. That was the image I had of me. So I go down there, and you go down these little secret hallways and through these little doors, bzz, 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 where they let you into these rooms and stuff like that. And so I'm in there. There's 2 other guys in that room who happen to be from my class that were also assigned that Friday night. The first guy is a guy named John Lloyd, who I will never forget. John was a big, thick, handsome, muscular, hairy guy from New York City. John Lloyd knew beyond a shadow of a doubt that he was God's gift to every woman and every man that had ever walked the face of the earth. There's 2 more chapters in my book about John. Very interesting guy. The other guy that was there that night was a Catholic priest, Father Frank Pichel. I loved Father Frank, and as it turned out, I actually sat at the rear of the class every day next to Father Frank, who sat there wearing his collar. The rest of us were in uniform. Father Frank had his collar. But that night in Vice, for the first time, he was not wearing his collar. So we're all sitting there and waiting, and 2 Vice guys come out. They take John into another room, so John's gone. This other cop comes up to Father Frank. Hey, Father Frank, you know, good to see you here. You're going to go with me tonight. Hey, we're going to do something really interesting. Come on with me, Father. You know, we're going to have some fun tonight. And he takes the father away. Then 2 other Vice cops come out. And they take me. We go into a side room. I take off my little fancy windbreaker. They wire me with a 2-way walkie-talkie system so that they can hear everything that's being said to me and everything I'm saying. They give me a pair of handcuffs, which I shove in my right rear pocket. And they give me a little short billy club, which barely fits in one of my front pockets. And then they give me this big, heavy, thick Navy pea coat that says USS Arizona on it or something. And I'm supposed to be a sailor on leave from my ship at Alameda Naval Air or something like that for the night. That's my disguise. So we go through the tunnel to where we check out the Vice cars that are, of course, unmarked cars. And we get into the car, and they're starting to drive me around, and they're telling me about the assignment for tonight. I am going to be the decoy on what they call the Pussy Posse. Yeah, you heard me right. The Pussy Posse. As we're driving around, they're telling me that I'm going to be trying to pick up a prostitute that night there in Oakland, California. And they say, now listen, there are 5 elements to the crime of prostitution. She's got to say what she's going to do, where she's going to do it, how much it's going to cost, and 2 other things. I couldn't remember them then, I can't remember them now. But they're saying, you know, you got it, the 5 things. She's got to say 5 things. And I'm back there, of course, I'm Marlon Brando on the waterfront. Yeah, I got it. Yeah, that's cool, you know. Yeah, 5 things. She's going to say 5 things, no problem. And I'm sitting there, and I'm looking out the back seat, from the back seat of that patrol car, and the city is getting darker and darker and darker because the area that we're now driving to, all of the street lights have been shot out. So there's no street lights. But every once in a while, we get a glimpse of this area down the street that looks like the circus came to town. There's neon lights flashing and back and forth and stuff like that. With the window down, you can hear the people talking, laughing. You can hear music going. You could smell barbecued chicken and spare ribs and stuff like that. Man, it looked exciting down there. Something was going on. But they said, listen, we can't drive down that actual street. It was 14th Street between Wood and Willow. They said, we can't actually drive down that street because they'd spot this car in a minute and know that Vice is in the area for the night. And so, you know, the heat's in the area, so nothing's going to go down. So we can't actually drive you down that street. So what we're going to do is we're going to let you off a couple of blocks away, and you walk down there, and that's where the action will take place. Now I'm really getting scared. So eventually, they let me out a couple of blocks away, and they told me they're going to be on a side street to what's happening. And I'm thinking to myself, I'm sure they know how this is going to work, and I'm sure other young cops have done this, but I did know that 3 days past my 21st birthday, I was the youngest cop that had ever tried to do this. So I'm walking down the street, kind of waddling really, and Marlon Brando on the waterfront is gone. I'm now the Pillsbury Doughboy with a concealed weapon. And I'm waddling along the street, and I'm scared shitless that something's going to fall out, that billy club or something's going to happen and stuff like that. I'm nervous as hell, and I finally get down to that intersection, and I can now see that street across the intersection. In that one block in Oakland, California on 14th Street, there are anywhere from 50 to 100 black whores on that street. Interspersed among all those women who are shucking and jiving and laughing and singing and carrying on and going in and out of those gin joints are the pimps. Big black guys dressed in very outrageous suits. Lined up at that curb, for the entire length of that curb, are the pimp mobiles. These are the biggest Cadillacs, Lincolns, biggest Chryslers, biggest things that Detroit has to offer. They're all in custom colors with fancy custom hood trim and wheels and stuff like that. Lined up at that curb along that block. Man, it is a happening, let me tell you. Now I'm so nervous I'm about to pee my pants. So I stand there, and the light turns green, and I'm walking across the street, and the action begins. The girls see me coming. I cross that street, and here it goes. Hey boy, hey, look, good looking boy coming here tonight. Honey, look at me, what do you want, what do you want? I got something for you, baby. Hey, oh, look at this good looking boy. Hey! I am determined. I don't want to look. I don't want to talk to you. I don't want to make eye contact with you. I have now figured it out. I'm going to walk down the street, and then I'm going to turn around, and I'm going to walk back to my Vice buddies and get in the car and go home. That's what I'm hoping is going to happen. But that doesn't happen. I haven't walked very far down that street, and all of a sudden this girl squares off right in front of me and stops my forward momentum. Now I want to tell you, this is actually the first black person I have ever seen or met in my life. Coming from North Phoenix, Arizona in the 60s, I had never seen or met a black person that I could remember. I knew what they were, I just personally had never seen one. So here I am, I'm looking at this girl, and I will tell you absolutely, I thought she was beautiful. She had short black hair, flipped up on the ends. She had beautiful almond-shaped eyes with thick black lashes, beautifully arched black eyebrows, a slightly large, pouty mouth, and the most beautiful, even-toned skin I've ever seen on a human being. I thought she was absolutely gorgeous. At the time, what I thought the word that flashed through my mind was exotic looking. But she still scared the hell out of me. So I'm standing there and I'm looking at her. Now, one of the other things my Vice buddies forgot to tell me is that these girls are not just going to come out in the King James English and say, good evening, young man, my name's Amanda. For 25 bucks, I'd like to give you a blowjob. I've got a little room up here above this student. No, that's not what happens. You ready? Here's what comes out of her mouth. Hey, baby, how about you and me go lick and slick around the world, pop the blue rainbow glide? What I want is to make you the big man. I just stood there and stared at her. I could not understand a word of what she said. I don't know what to say. So she carries on in this jive hip talk for a while and stuff like that, and finally she must come to the conclusion that I am so stupid and so scared, there's no way this USS Arizona kid could possibly be an undercover cop. So I'm just standing there looking at her. Finally, she calms down a little bit, and she puts her hand on my chest, which made me a little bit nervous. And she said, honey, she said, you gotta relax. She said, ain't no one here gonna bite you. And I'm looking at her teeth. I'm thinking something else my vice buddies told me. They said, listen, if you're talking to the girl and she said all 5 things, but she makes you as a cop, she may take off and try and run. So grab her and hold her until we get there to help you. I'm standing there looking at this girl and I'm thinking, I'm a little white boy from Phoenix, Arizona, and I'm going to grab a screaming, kicking, yelling black whore on this street full of all these black people and hold her till you get there to help me. I don't think so. If she gets away, she ran. I was talking to her, but then this other girl said something, and I looked at her, and when I turned around, I guess I blew it. She's gone. She got away. She didn't make it. I'm also thinking to myself when she touched me and said, ain't no one gonna bite you. And I'm looking at those teeth and I'm thinking, you might bite me. Especially if I tried to grab you and hold onto you and you realized I was a cop. You might bite me. So I'm standing there looking at her. I'm nervous as hell. She calms down a little bit more. And I'm thinking to myself, did she say 5 things? I can't remember. Did she leave one out? I don't know what. And I'm standing there looking at her, and I said, I babble out, how much is it supposed to cost again? And she looks at me and she says, honey, she said, you know, what you got? You know, you got $25, you know, I give you a blowjob. You go with me, you know, $35, fuck. You know, it's what you got, baby. She said, you know, I just want you to have a good time, be comfortable with me, you know. We have a good time together. So I'm standing there and I'm staring at her, and I'm wondering if she said the 5 things. And in my nervousness, my mind is screaming, where are the vice guys? Where's my rescue? Where are the guys that are going to help me grab this broad and throw her in the police car? And in my nervousness, I turn and I look over my left-hand shoulder down the block behind me. And when I turn around and look at her, her expression has changed. She is staring daggers at me. She saw me do that. And standing there staring at me, she leans to the side and she looks down the block behind me. When I looked, I did not see the vice car coming. But from a block away in the dark, she saw it and she knew what it meant. She squares back off in front of me again and she's staring at me, and I'm thinking, uh-oh, she's gonna stab me. She's gonna pull out an ice pick and stab me in my motherfucking heart. I'm gonna die right here 3 days after my 21st birthday on the street in Oakland, California. I'm fucking dead because I can't move. I'm scared shitless. My hands are buried in that pea coat because a couple of times she tried to slip her hand into my arm to turn me and get me to go to that stairway and stuff. I can't move. I'm just scared to death. So I'm standing there, and without taking her eyes off of me, with that dead cold stare at me, she yells out to another girl who's standing nearby, and these are her exact words. She says, Lucy, tell Lucky I done been busted. And she stands there staring at me. The vice car does pull up to the curb. A guy gets out, he comes up, he stands behind her. She doesn't even turn to look at him. He says, come on, honey, be a nice lady, we're going downtown. She turns like a lady. She glides across the sidewalk. She gets into the back of the patrol car. He gets in with her. I get into the front seat, slam the front door. I can barely breathe. There was some commotion on the sidewalk. They all knew what was happening. Hey, what's this shit? What's going on here? What go down? What are you guys doing here? But they didn't get involved. They just yelled. So anyways, we drive downtown and we go into the Vice subterranean caverns where they did all of their stuff, and they wrote up the report and they booked her. John Lloyd comes back in. John Lloyd had a prostitute also. But he had been at the opposite end of 14th Street where he had picked up his hooker. And Father Frank comes back, and Father Frank is falling down drunk. They took Father Frank out to different bars, and they told Father Frank, what we're going to do is we're going to sit at the end of the bar and make sure the bartenders are like handling the money right. and they're not, you know, they're putting the stuff in the till and stuff like that. So we're going to be watching the bartenders. I don't think so. Every bartender in town knew every vice cop in town, and they gave them all free drinks whenever they came in. So I knew this wasn't a police activity, but it did get Father Frank absolutely shit-faced that night. What happened that night, when they brought John's girl in, and Father Frank came in, there were some more things that happened that night in Vice that are very, very funny. I guarantee you've never read anything like that, never seen anything like that on TV. But what happened that night with the three of us there and the women that we had arrested and stuff like that is very, very funny, and it's in the book. So skipping ahead, I graduated out of recruit class. I'm now a patrolman. I'm on the streets of Oakland, California. And the first thing I wanted to do is get back to the gym and start working out again. When I was hired on the police department, I weighed 175 pounds. I was lean, I was mean, I was muscular. But looking around at my fellow cops, I realized I wanted to pack on a little bit more weight. So I wanted to get back to the gym as soon as I possibly could. Within the next year, working out at the Oakland YMCA, I packed on 40 pounds of solid muscle. I had 18-inch arms, and I could bench press 325 pounds. I was a rough, tough, mean little fucker, and I was armed. So that was my modus operandi. The first day I went to the Oakland YMCA, which was up on Telegraph Avenue, big 7-story building, but the gym and the swimming pool and the showers and stuff were downstairs a couple floors underground. When I went and I took one look at that gym, and I thought, man, I have found my home. It was a no-nonsense iron gym. Barbells, dumbbells, and the guys that were working out there were wearing ripped cut shorts and ripped t-shirts with no sleeves, and there was an ample opportunity to look at hairy chests and big thighs and legs and stuff like that. I knew I had found my home. There were none of those fancy little pulley things and little cables and all that shit. None of those guys were wearing those cute little pastel shorts that with the swish mark on them and the little tank tops that said "Jeff do it." No, these guys were for real, and I knew I was at home. I loved it. I went home that very first night, got my oldest pair of cut-off blue jeans, took a razor blade to them, started ripping holes in them here and there. I ripped it all the way up the left-hand side here so that it flapped open so that at times guys could get a shot at my jock strap. I took that t-shirt, ripped it all up, cut it down the side here, I remember, so that my left nipple stuck through it, cut off the sleeves, and I actually, this is the truth, I cut off the entire right rear pants pocket so that the right side of my hairy ass was visible at all times working out the gym. I loved it. I was home. So every day I would go down there during the day. It was never that crowded, but I would do my workout. I'd strip naked, go into the shower room, shower a little bit, walk down the hall, sit in the steam room. Maybe there'd be a couple of other naked guys in there that I could look at and talk to. Yeah, you're looking good. Oh yeah, what are you doing for your tits? Oh, how you get that separation in your tricep? But yeah, fuck man, yeah, looking good, good. Okay, that's how I got my kicks. And then I'd go back in the shower room, I'd shower a little bit, and there was a big wide opening into the swimming pool right there from the shower room. And of course you swam naked. It was a 3-lane lap pool, and the whole room in there was beautifully tiled. Floor seals, wallings, the columns that held up the ceiling stuff. And I would dive into the pool, swim to the far end of that pool, and I would stand down there naked, dripping wet, and I could watch guys going in and out of the shower. And it doesn't sound like much, but that's how I got my kicks. And from that distance away, I felt anonymous enough and safe enough that if I got a hard-on, which I sometimes did, I had no control over that thing. But if I saw somebody, I got a little excited. You know, I was far enough away, I knew that, you know, nobody could see what I'm doing. So one day I'm standing down there, and I'm looking in the shower room, and I see this really good-looking, muscular, hairy bastard come into the shower, and he disappears for a minute, and then he comes back into view, and damn if he doesn't walk into the pool. And I'm standing there and I'm thinking, what the hell are you doing? This is my pool. There was never anybody in that pool during the day but me. And so I'm standing there and I'm looking at this guy and I'm thinking, oh, wait a second. He thinks it's cold, so he doesn't want to dive in and stuff because he thinks the water's cold. And then as I'm standing there, I'm looking at this guy, I'm thinking, can he see me? Is he looking at me? You know, what the hell is going on with this guy? And all of a sudden he dives in the pool and starts swimming straight forward where I'm standing. And I'm thinking to myself, oh God, if he gets to the end of the pool and looks up where I'm standing, he's going to be looking right up at my stiff dick. This ain't going to work. So I'm scooting to the side so that I'm away from this guy. And I stand there, and by this time too, I've lowered my hand, and I'm pushing my stiffy down in front of me. And I'm standing there, and I'm watching the shower room. He's at the edge of the pool, but I don't look at him. Uh-oh, he's getting out of the pool. What the fuck is this guy? I don't want to talk to you. He's getting out of the pool, and he comes, and he's standing next to me. I do not look at him. And all of a sudden, he says, Damron. I turn and look at this guy. I give him the steeliest, hardest, most aggressive look that I can possibly manage. Considering, of course, that I'm standing there dripping wet with a heart on. And I go, hey. My voice sounded a little funny. Didn't quite sound like me. He says, Damron, he said, I'm Lieutenant Mike Karachosis on the Oakland Police Department. I've seen you around the department a few times, and I think somebody mentioned your name to me. And I go, hey, yeah, that must be it, huh? Something is definitely wrong with my voice. I've never sounded like that before in my life. I had kind of this thick, southern, slurry, stupid boy way of talking. I don't know what I'm doing, right over me. I've never talked to a man like this before, and it was just, and I'm so nervous, I just don't even want to talk to him or be looking at him and stuff. What the hell is he saying now? He's in a theatrical group. He's in little theater. He does plays, and they read plays, and they perform in little theater around the San Francisco area. Really? Okay, here's what comes out of my mouth. You ready? Oh yeah, plays, yeah, that's cool. I was in this play one time. I was in grade school, and I was the king. And this girl, she was the queen, and she had a little like tiara on her head or something. And and then we had to kiss, and all the kids would, oh look, they kiss. It was embarrassing stuff. The plays, plays. That's cool. That's really cool. I'm nuts. I am just fucking nuts. I sound like a naked savage who's just crawled out of a cave in Appalachia after eating a live squirrel. I'm horrified at the sound of my own voice. What's he saying now? He writes poetry. He's in a poetry reading group. They do recitations. He's really into ancient literature and poetry and stuff like this. Yeah, really? Okay, here's what comes out of my mouth. You ready? Yeah, poem, that's cool. I read this poem one time, was like this golden tree that had gold leaves, and the fucking leaves was like falling, so there was like gold leaves all over the ground and stuff like that. Yeah, poetry, yeah, fuck that, that's cool, that's, poetry, I've never read a poem about a gold tree in my life. I don't know where that came from, but I now know that, I'm in trouble, I'm crazy, just fucking shoot me. Shoot me now and put me out of my misery. I don't want to talk to this guy. I don't want to look at this guy. I just want to get the hell away from him. And so finally I babbled. So, hey, it's been nice looking at, talking to you. But I'm late, I think. I'm meeting somebody. Yeah, I got to get going. And so I got to get out of here. So, very nicely, he puts out his hand and he says, Damron, he said, I really enjoyed talking to you. And I hope we can get together again sometime in the department and talk again. Yeah, sure, yeah, that's cool. I'm thinking, you want to talk to me? I sound like an idiot. You've got to be wondering, how the hell did he get on the police department? How the hell did he ever pass the oral? Why would you want to talk to me? And I'm thinking, but I don't ever want to talk to you again. So I sort of turn to the side as best I can. I jump into the pool, my dick sticking out like the rudder on a ship. I swim the length of that pool like an alligator's chewing on my ass. I get out, I shower, I slip and slide across the floor to get out of that room, get to my locker, put on all my clothes, dripping ass wet, fuck, now my shoes and my socks are wet, grab my bag, and I get out of there. I do not ever want to see Lieutenant Mike again as long as I live. It's a big department. There's over 500 men. I've never seen you before. I don't want to see you again. But I do. Not more than a couple of weeks had gone by, and I'm coming out of lineup one night, and every night I went to work I was afraid that I might run into him. But I'm coming out of lineup, and there he is standing in the hallway in uniform, talking to another cop. And I'm in uniform, and I'm hoping, okay, I can get by because we're all going out, and he won't see me, he won't recognize me, and I won't have to talk to him. But he sees me. And he says, Damron, hold on a second, I want to talk to you. And I go, yes, sir. So I stand there with my briefcase and my cap, and the other cop leaves, and I step up and I said, yes, sir. And I'm thinking to myself, voice, sound normal. You know, don't sound like an idiot. And I said, yes, sir. And he said, listen, Damron, he said, I was wondering if you might be interested in working on special duty. And I said, yes, sir. I said, that's interesting. That might be something to think about for the future. And he said, well, he said, listen, he said, it's good work. He said, it's a good group of men. He said, I think you'd fit right in. I think you'd be very comfortable with that group of men. And he said, if you're interested in it, he says, I can get you transferred into a special duty. And I said, yes, sir. I said, that's great. That'd be nice. I'd appreciate that. And he said, good. He said, I'm in charge of special duties. He said, I'm going to be transferred into that unit. And I said, okay, sir, thank you. And I'm walking away, and I'm going through the tunnel under the street out to get my car for the night and relieve the guy that's been working that shift. And I'm thinking to myself, what the hell is special duty? I'd never heard of it. I'd never heard anybody mention it. And I'm thinking, why didn't I say something to him? You know, what is it? What hours do you work? What sort of work is it? Stuff. I didn't want to talk to him. I didn't want to prolong a conversation. I didn't even want anyone to see me talking to him. When I was talking to him there, I was kind of looking around, hoping that no one even saw me talking to this guy. But so I'm walking out, and I'm wondering to myself, what the hell is special duty?